Seattle picked up Ryan Grubb. That I was surprised, I'm not going to lie to you, that they tapped Ryan Grubb. This guy's got 0.0 NFL experience.
Based on watching what Ryan Grubb did at Washington, they're going to want to push the ball vertically. And they have the passing game personnel to do that.
Look at the release.
There's your separation.
Great route.
Stutter and go. Gets by clean.
That is unbelievable.
Maybe the greatest catch I've ever seen.
We go to the Pacific Northwest where Seattle picked up Ryan Grubb. They've got a brand new head coach there in Mike McDonald to be their lead man, but he's a defensive coordinator. For the offensive side, I was surprised, I'm not going to lie to you, that they tapped Ryan Grubb. Very interesting hire because, dude, this guy's got 0.0 NFL experience. He was the former Washington Huskies, current Alabama head coach Kalen DeBoer's right-hand man. He worked under DeBoer at Sioux Falls, Eastern Michigan, Fresno State, and most recently, again, at UW. So he stays in the Seattle area. But, Matt, I was surprised by the fact that a first-year head coach is going to tap this college coordinator who, by the way, was the OC for an offensive-minded head coach in Kalen DeBoer. So, I don't know. This one could be interesting. I'm just not that sure about Ryan Grubb.
Totally. And I think it's fair to say that just because you watch any of these college offenses and you're just like, yeah, this stuff it's just not going to really map to the league. And I think you can say that with some of the Washington concepts, just the way that they spread the field. You're not going to be able to do that in the NFL, of course, because just the way the fields are different, everything like that. I'll tell you what, though, man, it was fun as hell watching that Washington offense, working on any of these. And I watched a lot of it working on these three receivers, right? So they came out of that team. So I've seen a lot of this offense. And again, it's not going to all look like that, right? But I think the one thing that we can say is based on watching what Ryan Grubb did at Washington, and if you think he's going to want to do this in Seattle, they're going to want to push the ball, buddy. They're going to want to push the ball vertically. That was what they did at Washington. And they have the passing game personnel to do that here in Seattle. You have DK Metcalf, who, hasn't had one of his most productive seasons in a minute, but I think he could do that this year in this offense, vertical offense. Yeah, that fits DK Metcalf pretty perfectly. Tyler Lockett is a vertical slot. I think, look, Lockett's a declining player. I'm the biggest Lockett guy in the world, but he's definitely declining player. And you look back at Jaxon Smith-Njigba's reception perception profile. We all know that JSN he wasn't as productive as people thought from a fantasy perspective. Well, people were a little overzealous about what they thought he was going to do. I look at Jaxon Smith-Njigba's reception perception success rate by route chart. Post route 76.2% success rate, above the NFL average. Dig route, 76.9% success rate, above the NFL average. Out route success rate, 82.6%, well above the NFL average.
Strong.
High usage relative to NFL receivers on all three of those routes. My guy can run curls and comebacks and flat routes and all that stuff for sure. But I loved what I saw from JSN, who still 70th percentile success rate versus man, 76th percentile success rate versus zone in his first season for reception perception when he had a down rookie year from a production standpoint. Those intermediate and post route success rates, I think that maps really well to this Ryan Grubb vertical offense. So if you're looking for a bounce back JSN second season, I think that's one reason to think that it could happen.
We go back to this whole Ryan Grubb, the profile, I think a little bit. Extreme vertical passing attack is what I wrote down in regards to Ryan Grubb. We saw a lot of that at UW. I don't know, Matt. Some of it I think is quarterback too. I think Penix really liked to sit back there and just launch bombs. And if you had Penix's arm, why wouldn't you want to do that? If you had those three wide receivers again, why not go ahead and do it? I don't think that stuff totally translates to the NFL. But I mean, there's there were definitely some pro concepts, I think, in UW,
Yeah.
more than you would see in your typical college offenses, by the way, too. So it's not going to be a complete, different language. But again, I'm a little bit surprised, because when you're a guy like Mike Macdonald, you're getting your first opportunity here. You're a defensive coordinator, so it's not even as if you're the offensive guy here, right? You are truly entrusting Ryan Grubb here to take the reins of the offense and make it go. I think it'd be a little bit of a different situation, like we talked about and we're going to talk about here with Brian Callahan in Tennessee, where he's going to have a big input on the offense. Ryan Grubb, I know he was the OC in Washington, but Kalen DeBoer, man, like that's his area of expertise. So that's why I was a little bit, I'll be frank, I was shocked that Grubb got this opportunity, to be honest with you.
What I think is interesting too is that I think it's interesting when these defensive coordinators get hired. You typically think like a Mike Macdonald, like I'm going to hire somebody from an offensive tree that's giving me problems. Obviously, like, was Mike Macdonald just like watching college prospects and like, oh my God, this offense looks really hard to defend. I don't know.
I cannot think that. No, I can't think.
But
that,
he must.
no.
But it must have been something. It must have otherwise. Why did this happen? Because
that's why I'm shocked.
I do love the way, like, if we're gonna even just assume that some of these concepts, which I agree with you, are a little bit more pro concepts than college gimmicky stuff. Like there's not a lot of Mickey Mouse routes in Ryan Grubb and Kalen DeBoer's offense in Washington. Definitely didn't happen. It's a lot of just drop back, big boy routes. Roma Dunze doing big boy wide receiver things. Michael Penix throwing vertical passes to the outside, real true drop back sets. That does map really well to these players, as long as they can pass protect. That's the key.
I think especially DK Metcalf, I think is a real interesting one. But I don't know. Like I said, I'll be interested to see what happens with Jaxon Smith-Njigba. Do they have a different role for him? I don't know. What do you think, Matt? You think JSN's got a different role, man? It's hard to envision, especially with DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett there. I
think that JSN passes up Lockett this year. I don't think he totally, Lockett's going to go away. They brought him back or they redid his contract so that he could stay, which is important because this is a new coaching staff. That's a nice little indicator for Tyler Lockett, but I can't imagine they're throwing him a bunch of screen routes and like having him run 12.4% of his routes were flat routes last year, which is above the NFL average. The screen routes are above the NFL average. Like, I think he's going to be used a lot more in that intermediate area. And I think he'll sort of play, a role kind of like a Jalen Polk type receiver for Washington last year, where he's going to do inside-outside stuff. That's the key here. The fact that he was a 72% success rate versus man player. I think we got to get more outside receiver work for JSN this year. I think his rookie season, like what I said, was that it was like fine to good in reception perception, not nearly as bad as some of the, fake stats type indicated that it was like a poor season. So I think he's a player that can really be maximized by this staff. And I think Geno Smith can have a nice year too. Like, as long as they can protect Geno, I think he can push the ball downfield. He is a vertically inclined passer, and he can hit some of these guys in some of these really intermediate routes.
Jaxon Smith-Njigba last year, 93 targets, 63 receptions, 628 yards. I've got him boosted up here over 800. I think I'm at just about 900 yards here for Jaxon Smith-Njigba here in 2024. I gotta be honest with you though, my low side projection for him is also pretty bad. So people aren't gonna like this, but yeah, my low side projection for him is at just a touch over 400 yards, which I know sounds disastrous, but that's where I'm at with Ryan Grubb. I'm just not 100% sure, man. There's reason for optimism, but I think there's a lot of red flags here too, man. I'm worried about the Seattle offense. I'm not going to lie to you. I am worried about this offense, so we'll see how it turns out.